Just the latest note in determining how poor this Big Ten Western division is. Nebraska tied for first place. Wisconsin tied for first place. Both played winless in the conference, winless 0-6 teams in Indiana and Michigan State, and they both lost. That is the condition of the Big Ten Western Division. Somebody's going to win this thing. Nebraska, inexplicably, despite falling a game behind Iowa, can win out, play Iowa the final game of the season, and still get to the conference championship game to become some kind of 30-point underdog against Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State. We got Steve Merrill on the line from wagertalk.com. That's where you go to get the complete look of Steve's money management system and everything he has available with the NBA, college basketball, the NFL, and of course, college football. Steve, despite the marginal season, to be kind, Nebraska still has a fighting chance in the Big Ten Western Division. You called it last week. Nebraska looked to be a much more stabilized, motivated team because of incentive going to Michigan State. The Spartans just playing out the string as a team that had lost 6 straight. You said the math model said Michigan State's a better team by a few points, and they won by 3. So here we go. Maryland at Nebraska, and Maryland on the road is a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last week I thought it was a false favorite. Right. I thought Michigan State should have been favored on at home in that game, but now I think it's the opposite. I think now there's a false favorite here. Nebraska should be favored despite being the dog. And I do think that result last week has set up some value with Nebraska. In fact, my 10,000 game database simulation on average has Nebraska winning by nearly 3 points in this matchup. Other simulations I run has them winning outright, and also yardage projections have them outgaining Maryland. And then on top of that, you can make a case this is not a good spot for Maryland. This is a team that's completely fallen apart here. 4 straight losses, both straight up and against the spread, including allowing 51 points to a very mediocre Penn State offense last week. Makes me think that the wheels have fallen off and this team is fatigued. They've now given up 33 points or more in 3 of their last 4 games during this 0-4 straight up and 0-4 spread streak. And normally you start getting value when a team is struggling against the spread. But once again, I think the wrong team is favored here, and we do get value with Nebraska. Keep in mind, Cornhuskers had a 3-0 turnover deficit also in that Michigan State game. That was probably the difference between them winning or losing. So a little bit of an unfortunate loss. Also thought they had an unfortunate loss against Minnesota back in week 1. They played Colorado a lot tougher than that loss in week 2. So yes, whoever wins this division is going to be ugly, but Nebraska probably is deserving of being the champ in this division. And, it would be interesting if they play like, say, Ohio State, because they'll be a huge dog, as you mentioned, but they are a good defensive team. If they could keep it close, they can maybe sneak within that number. Problem is they have no backdoor cover potential because they don't throw the ball well. But they should be okay against a bad Maryland defense. It looks a lot weaker than their overall numbers this season. As I referenced, the last 4 weeks, it looks like they're falling apart. And I think there will be a little bit of a hangover after that Penn State game. So I like Nebraska to bounce back this week. I think the wrong team is favored.
You get Steve's Under the Radar selection each and every week here at the Voice of College Football. It's exclusive to us, so we appreciate Steve for doing that. 18-5 against the spread. And if you try to do this on your own, you realize how ridiculous that is. That number since week 1 of 2022. And become a member on Patreon, /MarkRogersTV, or on the main channel. As a YouTube member, you get the Under the Radar selection right there. Steve, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, Mark.